What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Shogun FC. Today I'm going to be giving you some auction house tips and letting you guys know how to go about getting the best players in the game for as cheap as possible. So first things first, there are some things you're going to need to understand about how the auction house works. Some of you may already know this, but for those who don't, I'm going to go through it. First thing you need to know is that scouts obviously work in averages and they round down every single time. A 2-star, 3-star and 4-star scout will give you a 3-star, for example. So, but if you were to go 2-star, 3-star and 5-star, you'll still get a 3-star. It's not going to round up, it will always round down. Even 3-star, 3-star and 5-star will round down. Seriously, it's always going to round down. Scouts work to narrow down your selection, not to combine it. The way this works is, for example, if you get a 5-star Real Madrid scout, that means you can get everybody who plays for Real Madrid. But then if you combine that with a 5-star left-wing forward, it's not going to collate both of those lists together. Instead, it creates a Venn diagram and finds every left-wing forward that plays for Real Madrid. And it basically gives you the players in that crossover area. And that is how the scouts work. To my knowledge, you can't buy a 1-star scout. I've never seen them come up in the auction house ever. I might be wrong. And barring any promotions, I don't think you can get a 5-star scout for free. I believe, I'm like 90% sure that those two statements are completely factual, but I'm open to anyone proving me wrong on that, but I'm almost certain that that is the case. And finally, certain scout categories are only available in the auction house. For example, a club scout. If you want to get a player specifically from Arsenal or specifically from Manchester United and you wanted the scout for that, you're going to have to go in the auction house and find it. All of those scout dynamics are correct at the time of me recording this video. If these become incorrect at any point, I will leave a comment down below and I'll pin the comment, or I will leave a note in the description. But as of right now, these are correct. Now, the next thing you need to understand is scout hierarchy. There is a pricing meta around certain scouts, and this is a dynamic that is handled by the players of the game, me and you and everybody else. It's not kind of hard-coded into the game because we as players, we set the prices because it's us that's bidding. Now, ordinarily, that would make this a very unpredictable dynamic, but over the course of the year, I've taken my time making this video to make sure that this is correct. And over the course of the year, I've found rules that pretty much stand true all the time, with a few exceptions, which I will tell you now. But the relative pricing order for scouts, in order from generally most expensive to generally the cheapest, is as follows. Club scouts, these are almost always the most expensive just because they allow you to narrow down pretty much better than anything else can. So Real Madrid, Barcelona, PSG scouts, stupidly expensive. Next up is nationality and region. Again, they allow you to narrow down pretty well, so the prices are quite high on them because they're in high demand. Across the board, you know, you're talking from 2-star up to 5-star, these scouts, they're going to put a bit of a hole in your pocket. Next up is playing skills. Now, these tend to be way more affordable than the club and nationality. They're in a different tier. Apart from Sombrero and Rabona, which are definitely top tier scouts. They're insanely expensive just simply because of the players that you can get with them. You know, we're talking about Neymar, Douglas Costa, Malcolm. Just the really good Brazilian players, really. You know, these skill moves are ever present in their combinations, so they're pricey. Now we're getting into the top end of the affordable scouts, and the position scout it's relatively affordable. I mean, it's still going to cost you a fair whack, but the price is a bit more reasonable. Apart from the 5-star wing forwards, you need them to get Neymar, Cristiano Ronaldo. They are so expensive, it's eye-wateringly so. Apart from that, most of them are priced pretty reasonably. However, they do allow you to narrow down quite well. So, you know, they do come at a premium, but it's not as ridiculous as club and nationality. Next up, it's playing style. Playing style is a very much ignored attribute it seems, and as a result, despite the ability to narrow things down quite well, they tend to be quite cheap in comparison to what they could and should be. I would expect them to cost a lot more than they do, so they're worth looking at. Next up, its ability. Now, to my knowledge, this is dictated by the top 4 attributes that a player has. For example, when you sign a player, you see those 4 stats that show up on the right hand side of the screen. If the stat that you're looking for isn't one of those, it won't bring up that player, regardless of whether they're good at that skill or that particular attribute or not. If it's not in there, the scout won't show them. Next up is height. This category's only got 1 scout, which is the above 185 centimeters, which is home to Cristiano Ronaldo and a few other giants. But for the most part, they don't cost a whole lot. The 5-star one is expensive, but the rest of them, not so much. You can get them for a decent price, especially if you go on at the right times. Next up, you've got League. It's not an amazing scout. There are a few times when a league will, properly narrow down for you, but for the most part, they're not amazing and they tend to be quite cheap. So if you can find a combination where the League scout is in there, then it's probably worth pursuing because you might save yourself a few thousand GP. Next up is playing style. Some of these are abnormally high, like goal poacher and prolific winger, especially at the higher levels. But for the most part, they're quite affordable. Next up is continent. Again, these don't narrow down very well for the most part, especially things like Europe, North and South America. Africa does narrow down well, but they tend to be quite cheap, which is weird. Africa will, definitely narrow down your chances of getting players like Aubameyang and Naby Keita. But even still, for the most part, they're quite cheap. Next up, it's playing styles. Trickster and Amazing Run come at a premium. Speeding Bullet tends to fluctuate. Again, it's an attribute that a lot of people don't really pay much attention to, tend to ignore. But those ones, Trickster, Amazing Run, they're the sort of ones that will get you Neymar, Ronaldo, Hazard, those sorts of things. So the people who know that, and obviously everybody watching this video, they will happily pay over the odds to make sure they get them. So yeah, but for the most part, they're quite cheap, so they're worth looking at. Next up is favourite tactics. Again, something that people don't pay much attention to, but if you can figure out a player's favourite tactics and find a combination that works, that is definitely the route to go down because they do not cost a lot. Then there's age, which just basically gives you under 24s and over 25s. It's not great for narrowing things down. Occasionally it will work in your favour, but for the most part, they cost pennies. And finally, you've got stronger foot. And again, you've got 2 options, left foot, right foot. Other than, a few goalkeepers and the occasional outfield player, more often than not, the stronger foot doesn't come into play. And as a result, they're a relatively cheap scout. I've used them to get a couple of goalkeepers that I wanted. But other than that, nah. Now that order is important, simply because every player in the game has more than one way to get them. Now, obviously there are the obvious ways to go about it, the combinations that immediately spring to mind without any particular research, but these ones cost a fair amount. But if you try and find combinations that use scouts from further down this tier list, you can save yourself tens and maybe even hundreds of thousands in GP in scout combinations just on 1 or 2 players. It's really that important. But that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'm going to do some more follow-ups to this and let you know how to get specific players for cheap. So if you want to suggest any of those players that you want to know how to get the cheapest possible combinations for them, leave them down in the comments below and I'll reply and let you know if I know a way to get them for cheap. I'll do my research and I'll pop out a video for you. So if you want to see that, drop some comments down below and give this video a thumbs up because it lets me know that you find this sort of thing useful and you want to see more in the future. And I'll even follow up on ways to get combinations even cheaper than just using this method. I could be here talking for hours about how to get prices down on the auction house, and I'll turn these all into videos, but to do it all in one video will be way too long. And also consider checking out the Patreon because these videos start out as blog posts on the Patreon. which you can get access to for as little as $1 a month. It means you get this information early before they become videos. So yeah, give it a look. The link is down in the description. Until next time, take care. Peace.